Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be seeing as to why two countries, that is China and Pakistan, want this person, Mr. Muhammad Yunus, in power in Bangladesh. So of course, there will be something, in fact, a lot of things that will be in sync with what these countries want if this person remains in power in Bangladesh. So let us understand who is he, what role, responsibility, power he has, what is his perception or what is his approach and ideology, and why do China and Pakistan, who are, all, you can say, all weather enemies of India, want him in power in Bangladesh. So what's the news all about? So basically what is happening as we speak is China and Pakistan, they both are backing Mr. Muhammad Yunus's rule, and the election delay that is happening, Pakistan and China are backing that as well. So what is this all about? What is the present situation in Bangladesh? So presently as we speak in Bangladesh, there is no elected government. There is no democracy, let alone democracy, that is not even any elected government. So what is present in Bangladesh presently? Presently there is an interim government, the chief advisor of which is Mr. Muhammad Yunus. So he is basically controlling entire Bangladesh as of now. And the Chinese and the Pakistanis want him to continue. Why? Because the thing is, his ideologies, his approach is suiting the requirement of China and Pakistan is what we will see. At the same time, this guy doesn't seem to be in a hurry to carry out election. Even in fact, he has hinted that the elections may happen in 2026 if it ever happens. So 2025, nothing doing. It may happen in 26 if it ever happens is what is being said by him. As a result of which, China and Pakistan is supporting and wanting this man to continue, simply because if you look at China, of course, is there any democracy in China? Absolutely not. Is there any democracy in Pakistan? Pakistan may call itself a democratic state, but it is not at all a democratic state as we speak in all practicalities. As a result of which, similar ideology, similar approach, similar kind of governance, hence the want or the desire to have him in power. Now, who is he? As far as Muhammad Yunus is concerned, previously he was globally quite famous because he is the receiver of the Nobel laureate. So he has won the Nobel Peace Prize. He has done quite a lot of tasks or work when it comes to eradicating poverty, microfinance, coming up with methods to help the poor in Bangladesh in general. Right, because of which he has also won the prize. But after the ousting of the Sheikh Hasina-led government, when he became the chief advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh, that's when he has become power hungry and does not seem to let go of his power which he is having. So what power does he hold presently? What power does Yunus hold presently? He is the chief advisor, and he is as good as the prime minister of the country, even though he does not hold that tag. Why is that so? That is because there is no democratically elected government right now in Bangladesh, and there is no prime minister right now in Bangladesh. So the whole and soul of the country is its chief advisor, that is Yunus. So without the tag also, he is having a lot of power. However, why was this power? Why is he having that power? He might be using it for various reasons, but the power was given in order for him to carry out the primary responsibility that was given to him was to carry out or hold the parliamentary elections in Bangladesh. So since this government is just an interim government, that means just for the time being, till the time the new government is formed. So in the interim, this present government has a chief advisor whose primary task was to carry out a free and fair election in order to form the democratically elected government. So this was his role. However, what has he done? He has basically shown no intention of relinquishing his power, because of which he has also not shown any intention to actually carry out any election in the foreseeable future. Because why so? Because if he actually carries out the election, what will happen? Electorally or the democratically government form of government will come into existence, after which his role will go away, because of which he will have to relinquish his power, and he does not intend to do so in the foreseeable future. So this is clear. So this is what he wants. He wants power. He wants to keep that power. Now, why is China interested in Bangladesh, or why is China interested in keeping Yunus in power? So let us understand that. So as far as the Belt and Road Initiative is concerned of China, now China has already invested a lot in Bangladesh under its Belt and Road Initiative. Now, a democratically elected government, if a democratically elected government comes back in Bangladesh, that government might reassess, renegotiate, and even reconsider whether to be a part of Belt and Road Initiative or not, because being a part of it actually distances yourself from other countries, especially like India, because of course India is not a part of it. It is not in sync with our sovereignty and integrity of India, as a result of which we are not a part of it. So a newly elected government might be more close to India, that's a possibility, might reconsider, reassess, want to renegotiate or even reconsider the Belt and Road Initiative for various reasons. So that China do not want, because already a lot has been invested in Bangladesh under the Belt and Road Initiative. Now when you talk about Yunus, now Yunus, who is leading the interim government, is sort of inclining towards Beijing, and this gives Beijing, that is China, an assurance that if Yunus is in power, everything is going to move ahead smoothly and there will be no interference. Further, the Chinese have, of course, consistently opposed the spread of democratic activism along its border. Now, China is not wanting to have democracy spread. It itself is not a democratic country and would not want those kind of ideology near its border area in Taiwan and even in the Chinese border area, as a result of which would not want Bangladesh to have a democratically elected government, rather would want Yunus to continue. And Yunus is actually in sync with this ideology, as he has already extended the time of conducting elections in 2026 if it ever gets conducted. Now let us see what's in it for Pakistan. Now with respect to China, we saw it was the infrastructure, the Belt and Road Initiative, the economy, etc. With respect to Pakistan, there is much more than that. So it's not just the infrastructure, etc. that we are talking about. In fact, it is about the ideology, the regional power play, and the strategic depth of with respect to the fundamentalist element. So it is more than infrastructure or economy, it is about the ideology, it is about the brotherhood, the Islamic brotherhood is what we will talk about over here. When it comes to the previous government of Bangladesh, that is under Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh had strengthened themselves and kept themselves quite away from these fundamentalist tendencies. However, under Yunus, that is not the case. So what's happening here is the experts, they are pointing out that Pakistan's ISI had previously worked in tandem, in collaboration with Bangladesh along with various Islamist factions, and had carried out lot of operations from Bangladeshi soil. So in collaboration, having the same ideology with respect to the Islamist factions, and they had carried out various attacks, various operations in connection with Bangladesh factions. So that is what they had done previously under Sheikh Hasina's government, that was under control. Now under Yunus, again the similar thing can start over here. Further, if we look into it in detail, Pakistan had this dream, or you can say the vision which they talk about, in which they have mentioned many times, bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. So if Yunus stays in power, who is not in sync with India and the approach India has, he is not wanting to come close to India, rather wants to sit in the lap of Pakistan and China. So what will happen? The policy that Pakistan has of bleeding India by 100 cuts, they would want to try to start implementing that particular approach. Now, what is this policy of making India bleed 1,000 cuts? Basically, this is the ideology wherein Pakistan wants to infiltrate India and Indian soil with various militant groups and individual militants and carry out multiple attacks on India with the help of these militants at multiple locations. That is why the number 1,000 over here is talking about cutting India in with 1,000 cuts. So if this happens, they will try to, of course, implement this particular policy. Now it was our responsibility. We have our defense system. We will, of course, try to foil that. But this is another unnecessary issue which India will be facing if he stays in power. Not just that, there has been the terror outfits which have been banned previously under Sheikh Hasina is now actually getting unbanned, and they are now being given free hand to do whatever they want. So for example, the Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh, now Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh under Sheikh Hasina was banned. So what has Muhammad Yunus done over here? He has lifted the ban from Jamaat-e-Islami and now they are back in business. So what is happening? The terror outfits, the fringe elements, the Islamist faction groups are now getting more independence to do whatever they want, and the control of the government is either being deliberately removed or the government is not able to control them. Either of the two things are happening, and more likely it's not about being able to control but probably letting them loose is what is happening over here. In fact, banned terrorist groups like Hizbut Tahrir have begun operating again openly, as well as various extremist clerics. Now, one of the extremist cleric who is there, who's Mufti Jashimuddin Rahmani, he has now also been released from prison. So the release of such extremist leaders, unbanning of such groups is going to create issue with respect to radicalism, radicalization, and terror activities would again start from the soil of Bangladesh. Even certain students group, for example, Jamaat Students Wing, that is Islamic Chhatra Shibir, they have also played a key role when it comes to agitation and terror activities. Now they are going to roam free and carry out various terror activities and be again active in Bangladesh. Now Bangladesh shares a border with India, as a result of which it is a huge concern for India as well. So what Muhammad Yunus is trying to do, institutionalize conservatism. When you institutionalize conservatism, when you have religious fundamentalism, what will it do? It will reduce the religious tolerance that are there, and we have already seen that Bangladesh has exploited, harassed, killed the minorities in their country. It is probably going to get worse if he stays in power. And what is the strategic dilemma in front of India? See, now after the ousting of Sheikh Hasina, there is a vacuum that has been created. So what should India do now? Should India go ahead and shake hands with Muhammad Yunus? Probably not, because its stance have been completely anti-India. What India is doing now is playing a waiting game in order to understand what happens, which government is formed after the elections that take place. But the other issue is Muhammad Yunus is not carrying out any elections and is saying that we want to have electoral reforms first, only then we will carry out elections. So it may happen in 2026. So it's a quite waiting game that India have to play over here. Some suggestions are there that India should now become aggressive, and if anything like that is happening, India should strictly take actions against this. For example, releasing the extremist leaders, unbanning the organizations which were declared terrorist organizations, etc. So India should not stay silent, but rather aggressively take actions against such things that are happening in Bangladesh. Thank you.